Hi friends, thanks for joining me. We're going to finish off the stained glass heart pop-up card. The cut file is by Paige Taylor Evans, and on the front will be a shaker using Paige's Love Cut file. And if you haven't already, I'd recommend you watch the first video using the pop-up feature in Silhouette Studio. In the last video, we went through the steps to actually make our stained glass heart pop-up card in Silhouette Studio, and if you cut out the pieces, then we'll start right there. So this is going to be the inside of our card, the part of the card that pops up, and I've cut it out of white AC cardstock. And one thing that I'd like to share is when I'm pulling a cut file off the mat, I actually pull the mat away from the paper, and that'll alleviate you having to use spatulas or that type of thing. So I'm going to try and show you how I do the folding so that once we put our card together, the stained glass heart will pop off the interior of the card. The blade just missed a little spot there, so we'll use the scissors. The perforations are placed so that you can fold the parts up that need to pop up the card, and then the perforations that fall just behind that are folded back so that the card will sit flush inside, and when you fold it, everything folds flat. And you just want to be a little gentle here. Take your time. It's tricky not to make creases on the side of your card, but some of them will smooth out. But just do your best not to make any dents or creases. And the bottom part will fold towards the inside of the card, and it has made some dashes where we can fold the middle of the card. So we just gently nudge it into shape, and then I actually like to fold it as if it was all put together and put a little pressure on it. You can see there, that's where the heart will pop up. Put a little pressure on it and smooth it out so it's ready to be glued to the outside of the card. Oh, my hands are dry. Lordy Lord. Anyways, I'm going to cut off the little bits that fell between the pop-ups because we don't really need those. And there we have the inside of our card. So let's pop back to Silhouette Studio and we'll design the rest of the card. So this is what we left off with in the last video. There's the interior of our card that we just folded. And there's the stained glass heart. Let's start working with the outside of the card, here shown as a bright pink rectangle. I'm just going to put it in the center of the mat, and what I want to do is add some dash lines right in the center of the pink rectangle so that it will fold nicely as well, and it'll be easy to put the inside and outside of the card together because they'll both be folded exactly in the center. So I've just gone ahead and turned the grid lines on the mat, and again it's 6.5 by 10, the outside of the card, and the squares on the corner or on the edges of the rectangle will show you exactly where the center of the card is. Now I've chosen to just draw a straight line. Oops, that one wasn't long enough. Let's do that again. Draw a straight line right in the center of the rectangle. And you just do that by using the straight line feature there. And when you have your line drawn in the center, you can zoom in and check it out. Make sure it looks good for you. Let's take a little peeky there. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to grab the eraser and just erase a couple of spots. Make sure your eraser is kind of small, and erase a couple of spots along the line so that when you send it to cut, it's just going to cut a dashed line there instead of making a full cut. And the dashed line then will help you fold your card down the center. So let's zoom back out. Maybe change the color of the front of the card so that you can see the dashes a little more easily. Probably shouldn't be this hot pink, but we'll make it a little more transparent so that you can actually see what I'm trying to show you. And so we'll pick the pink again. So there you can see the dashes falling right in the center of the card. And if we zoom out and drag the inside of our card back, you can see that the center folds line up perfectly, and that's what we want. You could also do this with your score pal, but I just like to do it on the Cameo because it actually makes it a lot more precise. But if you're more comfortable with your score pal, have at it. I just thought this would be a nice trick to show you. So with my cards, I actually made a shadow of every cut file. I glued that directly to the pop-up card, and then I popped up the cut file with foam tape. And so I'm going to release the compound path on the stained glass heart so that I can grab just the outside of the stained glass heart cut file, make a copy of it there, and put that piece back, put that piece back, and there we go. And we'll group that so that it all stays together neatly, and go back to working with the copy that we just made, the heart without any cut lines. And I actually want it to be a shadow on the stained glass heart. So we want it to be just a little bit bigger, and I'm going to use the offset feature to do that. It's the little star. It's the fourth one from the bottom of your tools on the right. And I'm going to just erase the heart we don't need. So this becomes our shadow. I'm going to make it a color so that you can see it. So when you move it over the heart, you can see it covers it neatly. I'm going to cut that out of a pattern paper from Go The Scenic Route. And also I'm going to move on to the mat because we can do these cuts all in one fell swoop. I'm going to move the stained glass heart over there. If I make it a compound path, you can see exactly where the cuts are going to be. And I'm going to make that out of, again, white AC cardstock. So we've got the front of the card, we've got the heart shadow, and we've got the stained glass heart. So I've popped in a still photo of my cut settings here because that seems to be a real tricky part for new Cameo silhouette users. I have a premium blade on. It's pretty new, so I've set it at 31, and I'm going to send it through twice just to get a good clean cut on the cut file. So we're ready to go. Here's all the pieces we designed in Silhouette Studio. We've got our pop-up card, and I like to use the smooth side inside my cards. I think it's easier than to stamp if you're going to stamp a greeting. This particular card, I'm going to write a message to a friend, and we'll just give it one last fold here before we tape everything together, just to make sure everything's creased nice and neat and even. So the front of the card is paper 16. It's the red background with little pink flowers. It's so pretty. I've gone ahead and paperbacked my cut files. I think we all know how to do that. I just used a few bits and pieces I've had left from the project with my other cards. The butterfly was cut from paper 20. Just love that paper. And the shadow I cut from the B side of paper 16, which is a pretty pink. The frame that goes on the front of the card For the shaker, that's paper 13, and the measurements are 4.65 by 6.20, and I did that on Silhouette Studio. So let's get putting this together. When you're putting your tape on, just make sure you don't tape over any of the perforations or of course the parts that you want to fold. And pop that onto the front of your card. Got it a little too far to the right there. And give it a nice fold, and I've got the silicone bone folder, which I really like for making cards. If you have any unevenness at the bottom of your card, just use your sanding block. It's so much neater than a pair of scissors. And there's our shadow. We're going to get that taped onto the pop-up. What you want to make sure is nothing passes the middle of the card, so that when it's folded closed, you don't want to crease your heart. And this pop-up tape comes in a big roll from scrapbook.com. I just love it because you can cut it to the exact size you need, and it seems to go on forever, and it's very well priced. So we've now completed the inside of our card. You can see your stained glass heart popped up. I love seeing the paper underneath too, and I think the shadow really sets the cut file apart. Inside you can handwrite a message, or as I did for Paige's Silhouette Design Team project, I used my foil quill. You can stamp it with your favorite greeting stamp, emboss it, use ink. The sky's the limit. So let's go ahead and do our shaker front. I like to tape my frame onto the acetate rather than cut the acetate to size. I just find that it's easier to just trim out after rather than trying to get a small piece of acetate perfectly placed on your frame. So that's what I'm doing here. I use the super sticky double-sided tape, and I didn't quite get it on straight, so we fix that up. Pull out my paper trimmer and trim off the excess acetate, so we're just left with the frame with the acetate beneath. There we go, perfect. Now let's tape our paper-backed cut file to the front of the acetate. I'm using just a tape roller because it's a little more forgiving if you don't get it on straight. And I'm going to glue a butterfly to the front that I fussy cut out of paper 20. It's just the prettiest paper. I think it's my favorite. So I'm using scrapbook.com. This foam tape is actually cut into perfect strips. They are great around shakers because you're able to make them go in a circle or around a heart. Pretty easy going around this rectangle, but they're very flexible, and I like that they're pre-cut. And they have a tape on the top that you peel off, just like your double-sided tape. So let's get some sequins in there. These sequins that I've pulled out here, they're the Doodlebug set, and I don't think they're available anymore, but they sure have been nice to use. I'm just going to pick a whole bunch based on the colors from the paper-backed cut file, the love on the front of the shaker. And so we've got yellows, blues, pinks, some light pink, some fuchsia, and some aqua that match the frame. This is really only part of my sequins collection. You may have noticed I put sequins on pretty much everything. I decided to bump it up with a little bit of white. They're actually opaly, so they catch any color that they sit beside. You just want to make sure that your sequins are in the center so nothing gets stuck under your double-sided foam tape. And all done. Give it one last smoosh and make sure that your frame is on securely so none of your pretty sequins fall out. And so thanks for joining me with this project. It's a bit of a long video, but hopefully you found the information useful and maybe you'll try to make your own pop-up cards. I'm going to leave some links in the description box that go back to the post at pagetaylorevans.com where I talk about making the other cards for the Silhouette Design team this week. And Paige's cut files can be found at the Silhouette Design store and also at Paige's Etsy shop, Paige by Paige. There's a link you can find to her Etsy shop on her blog. So stay tuned for close-ups, and likes and subscribes are always appreciated. And we'll see you again soon. Happy scrapping. Bye-bye.